I was living a lie, and the truth was waiting to be exposed. My name is Leila, and I am 45 years old. And if there is one thing I have learned after everything that happened, it is that a life can look completely stable from the outside while slowly breaking from the inside, piece by piece, in a way that no one notices until the damage becomes impossible to hide. And by that time, the truth is no longer something you can control, but something that controls you. I have been married to my husband, Christopher, who is 49 years old, for nearly 15 years. And during all that time, we built a life that many people admired, not because it was exciting or extraordinary, but because it was consistent, calm, and seemingly free of the kind of problems that destroy relationships. And for a long time, I believed that this kind of life was not only enough, but ideal. Christopher is the kind of man who believes deeply in responsibility, in structure, in doing things the right way without taking unnecessary risks. And while some people might find that boring, I found it comforting because it created a sense of safety that allowed me to relax, to trust, and to believe that no matter what happened, we would always be okay. But what I did not understand at the time is that safety without emotional awareness can become a quiet trap, a place where nothing feels wrong on the surface, yet something essential is missing underneath. Something that slowly grows into a feeling you cannot ignore, even if you try to convince yourself that everything is fine. That feeling, for me, was emptiness. Not a dramatic or painful emptiness, but a quiet, persistent one. The kind that appears in ordinary moments, when you are alone in a room, when the day is over, when there is nothing to distract you and you are left alone with your thoughts, wondering why something feels incomplete, even though your life seems whole. At first, I ignored it because it did not make sense to me. I had no reason to feel that way, no clear problem, no visible lack. And because of that, I convinced myself that it was temporary, something that would pass if I simply focused on my responsibilities and continued living my life as usual. But instead of passing, it stayed. And over time, it grew stronger, more present, more difficult to ignore, until it started to affect the way I experienced everything, making even happy moments feel slightly distant, slightly incomplete, as if I was watching my own life instead of truly living it. Instead of facing that feeling, instead of asking myself difficult questions or trying to understand what was happening inside me, I chose distraction, not consciously at first, but gradually, naturally, almost automatically, as if my mind was searching for a way to protect me from something I did not want to confront. That distraction came in a simple form: buying things. At the beginning, it felt harmless, just small purchases, little rewards after a long day, things that made me feel good for a short moment. And because there was no immediate consequence, no visible damage, I allowed myself to continue without thinking too much about it. But what started as something small slowly became something much bigger, as the act of buying began to take on a deeper meaning, becoming not just a way to get things, but a way to change how I felt, even if only for a few minutes. And without realizing it, I became dependent on that feeling. The more I relied on it, the more I needed it. And the more I needed it, the less control I had over my actions, until I reached a point where I was no longer making decisions based on logic or necessity, but based on a need I did not fully understand and could not easily resist. I began to spend more money than I should, then more than I could afford, moving from savings to credit cards, and from one credit card to another, creating a system that allowed me to continue without immediately facing the consequences, even though those consequences were growing quietly in the background. At the same time, I became someone I never thought I would become, someone who hides things, someone who lies, someone who avoids the truth not only with others, but with herself, convincing myself that I was still in control even when everything around me suggested otherwise. The nights became unbearable because they were the only moments when I could not escape reality, when I was forced to sit with the truth of what I was doing, looking at the numbers, the bills, the debt that kept growing no matter how much I tried to ignore it. And in those moments, I felt a level of fear and regret that I cannot fully describe. I promised myself, again and again, that I would stop, that the next day would be different, that I would fix everything before it was too late. But those promises never lasted because the cycle always returned, stronger than before, pulling me back into the same pattern of behavior. Before we continue the story, download the PDF in the description and stay till the end. You'll find useful vocabulary, examples, and a fun quiz. Meanwhile, Christopher continued to trust me completely, asking simple questions about our finances, accepting my answers without doubt, believing in a version of me that no longer existed. And that trust, instead of stopping me, made me feel even more guilty, even more trapped, because I knew that the truth would hurt him in a way he did not deserve. The distance between us grew slowly, not in visible ways, not through arguments or conflict, but through silence, through everything I was not saying, everything I was hiding, everything I was carrying alone while pretending that nothing had changed. There were moments when I almost told him, moments when the truth felt too heavy to carry, when I wanted to sit down and confess everything, to finally be honest, to finally stop hiding. But each time, fear stopped me. Fear of losing him, fear of destroying what we had built, fear of facing the consequences of my actions. And then, one day, everything changed. It was not a dramatic day, not a day that felt different in any obvious way, but a normal day that turned into something else in a matter of minutes, when Christopher came home earlier than expected and walked into a scene I had not prepared to hide. There were packages everywhere, more than I could explain, more than I could move in time. And as soon as I saw his eyes move from one box to another, I felt a wave of panic so strong that it almost made me dizzy, because I knew that the moment I had been avoiding for so long had finally arrived. He did not shout, he did not react immediately, but instead he walked slowly into the room, looking at everything with a quiet attention that made the silence even more intense. And then he began to open the boxes, one by one, revealing a truth that could no longer be hidden. Each item he uncovered felt like a piece of my secret being exposed, and with each moment that passed, the weight of the situation became heavier until it was impossible to pretend that everything was normal. When he finally looked at me, his expression was something I will never forget. Not anger, not shock, but a deep, quiet disappointment that reflected not only what I had done, but what I had become. And in that moment, I understood that I could no longer hide, no longer lie, no longer protect the illusion I had been living in. And so I told him everything, every detail, every mistake, every fear, every lie, without trying to defend myself or justify my actions. I expected him to leave. I expected that to be the end. But instead, he stayed. Not because it was easy, not because he was not hurt, but because he chose to face the situation with me instead of walking away from it. And that choice, that single decision, changed everything in a way I could not have imagined. What followed was not forgiveness in a simple sense, not a quick resolution or an easy return to normal, but a long and difficult process of rebuilding, step by step, moment by moment, with honesty, effort, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. We created a plan, not just for our finances, but for our communication, our habits, and the way we understood each other, a plan that required discipline, patience, and consistency, and that forced me to confront not only my actions, but the deeper reasons behind them. There were moments when I felt weak, moments when the urge to escape returned, moments when I questioned whether I could truly change. But each time, instead of hiding, I chose to face those feelings, to talk about them, to accept them without letting them control me. Over time, something inside me began to shift, slowly but surely, as I started to understand that the emptiness I had been trying to escape was not something that could be filled with objects, but something that needed to be understood, accepted, and addressed in a deeper way. Today, our life is not perfect, and it never will be, but it is real, honest, and grounded in a truth that we did not have before. And even though the past cannot be changed, it has shaped who we are now in a way that is stronger, more aware, and more connected than before. This is my story, a story about how small choices can lead to big consequences, about how silence can become dangerous, and about how love, when it is real, is not about avoiding problems, but about facing them together, even when everything feels like it is falling apart. In this section, I'll show you some important words from the story, their meanings, and a simple example to help you understand and use them. The word addiction means when a person cannot stop doing something, even if it is harmful. For example, he has an addiction to playing video games. The word debt means money that someone borrows and must pay back. For example, she worked hard to pay her debt after buying a new phone. The word hide means to keep something secret or out of sight. For example, the child tried to hide the broken glass from his parents. The word trust means believing that someone is honest and will not hurt you. For example, I trust my best friend because he never lies to me. The word guilt means a bad feeling you get when you know you did something wrong. For example, she felt guilt after forgetting her friend's birthday. The word fear means a feeling of being afraid or worried about something. For example, many people feel fear before a big exam. The word escape means to get away from something unpleasant or difficult. For example, music helps him escape from stress after a long day. The word support means to help someone or give them strength when they need it. For example, my family always supports me when I feel sad. The word change means to become different from what you were before. For example, he decided to change his bad habits. The word confess means to admit the truth about something you are hiding. For example, he decided to confess his mistake to his parents. What does the word debt mean? A, a gift from someone. B, money that must be paid back. C, a feeling of fear. D, a way to hide something. The answer is B, money that must be paid back. What does the word confess mean? A, to lie to someone. B, to forget something. C, to admit the truth. D, to feel afraid. The answer is C, to admit the truth. What does the word support mean? A, to hurt someone. B, to help someone. C, to ignore someone. D, to hide something. Challenge yourself. Write your answer in the comments. Thank you for watching. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any new content.